respect to a variety of people's past, present and emerging. And they've stewarded this land and waterways since time immemorial, and I'd like to extend that respect to all First Nations peoples and communities. Now, I'm delighted to be introducing Benson, multidisciplinary artist, and in conversation with Perram OAM, curator of Benson's Poetry Without Stains, which you will be in. Benson is a multidisciplinary artist whose practice incorporates photography, video, performance, and textiles. Liam's work discusses gender, identity, and culture by cross-referencing and subverting popular ideologies like pornography, language, media, and art. Liam Benson's practice is informed through working collaboratively with diverse communities through an ongoing conversation about how culture, subculture, and identity interrelate and evolve. Liam Benson has been exhibited and has performed nationally and internationally since 2003 and is represented by Arterial Gallery in Sydney. Richard Perram OAM is the former director of Bathurst Regional Art Gallery, where he's curated a visionary program of contemporary Australian and international art, which has included The Unflinching Gaze, Photo Media, and Male Figure in 2017. Prior to working at Brad, Richard has had a long and varied career working in the arts, including as a project officer with the Visual Board of the Australian Council, director of the Australian Centre for Contemporary Art in Melbourne, as executive officer of Arts Queensland, and as executive officer of Sydney Gay and Lesbian Library. Without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to Liam and Richard. Thank you.
Liam's exhibition, Virtue Without Stain, contains a selection of over 70 works made over 20 years. And it's a selection, it's not all of it, so we've got 70 here. From the 2004 confrontational video, Okarempi, which is the one behind the rather gorgeous woman in the bath, drinking lots of BB, to the exquisite beaded works made in the 2002 Fossil Museum community workshops, and the video of the White Lady performance made at the Tarot Markets and the Victoria Hotel. He works, as you said, works across photography, performance, digital media and embroidery, and Leo creates unsettling images of great beauty, and that's a really important thing, that the images are unsettling and yet they're very beautiful to look at, that subtly deal with issues around masculinity, homophobia, gender, and our troubled colonial history. Lev was born, raised, and currently lives and works in Western Sydney, in one of Australia's most culturally diverse and socially conservative areas. An example of that, it's a minor thing, it was his electorate was one of only of the 17 electorates that voted no in that postal vote about same-sex marriage, but they only 50.9% voted no, which meant 49.1% voted yes, so it was very close. His work holds an unflinching mirror to who we are as Australians, and in Liam's case, what it is to be a queer white male of Anglo-Saxon heritage. Liam, how do you feel seeing all of these works together for the first time?
No.
Okay, there we go. Yay! That's alright. First of all, thanks all for being here. It's so lovely to see your faces this morning, and yeah, I'm really grateful to be here on Wiradjuri country, coming here all the way from Darug country and spending time with local people, with an amazing team here at Bathurst Regional Art Gallery, and I pay respect to Wiradjuri, elders of the past, present, and emerging. to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are with us today. And just really grateful to be having this show here in this place. And through the guidance of you, Richard, because I never kind of imagined when I was making all these works that I would ever have them in the one place. Particularly the images, which I feel like each time I made a work, it was focused on that image at that time, and a few of them are part of the series, but I never really thought of them as like works that I would put together. But this is where Richard's knowledge, experience, and ability to see everything and weave them all together in a way that I feel really good about. And so I'm really grateful for that support and guidance.
A lot of all of the photographs in the exhibition are of you. They're self-portraits, and in some ways why have you placed yourself as central to your practice? And in some ways, they're a little like Cindy Sherman, but they're quite different because I find them, they're incredibly political in many ways.
I've talked to other performance artists about this thing where often the people that you might see on a stage, or people that you think are really big, animated, confident people that I can own a space, are actually really shy people. And, I do think of myself as a shy person, and I can speak well in this way because of practice. But that's the thing that has informed me putting myself at the centre of this, was kind of this practice of extended periods of long time being on my own and thinking about who I was and figuring it out. I think we're all on a journey. And how many of us do actually get the chance to step back or meditate and really think about who we are and what makes up who we are, where we sit within the cultural fabric, and how do we contribute and what has contributed to our experiences and circumstances. And I'm really grateful for that period of time, my early teen years, my youth, of processing and unpacking the feelings and my observations, and what does it mean to be queer before you actually connect with other people who share your experience. And that's why I think I turned the camera on myself, was to help that process and perform and activate that kind of silent dialogue that was inside. But in doing that, and I think this is the same for all of us, that as you share your story and the more authentic that you are, then it makes space for other people around you to hopefully do the same. And like originally, some of the early works, Baby Stick Up Bleeding Glitter, the debutante, were about my particular experience, my version of what my gender is and where I sit within it and what its fluidity is and how it shifts and changes. And then I guess the practice of being a performance artist and leaning into this and learning about what it is, and then expanding out from that story and thinking about, well, where do I sit within history? Where do I sit within the contemporary times that we're living in? And how does my experience inform the way that I engage with that? Where now does my voice come into play with those things that are happening around me? And I think a lot about, we'll probably cover the next thing as we discuss more.
Thank you. One of the things that Dr. Christine Dean says in the video in there
is about your ability to shift your gender and how easy, especially in the video True Blue, which is in the back middle gallery, where in the course of the song by John Williamson, which, knowing Liam's queer, some of the words take on totally different meanings that John Williamson never intended. But in that thing, even though you still have a beard, when you finish, you are so feminine and things like that. And I think that's one of the things about your work is this fluidity about your gender, which is very much in conversation in the community today.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's such a great song. Do people like True Blue? Right? Yeah, it's so great because it's so, yeah, it's like a cringe factor for some people, and then it's like this, like, you know, like, oh my god, I'm so seen in this song, and I love it because sometimes, you know, it's sung with the irony that John put into that song, and other times it's sung with complete obliviousness from the layers of questioning within those lyrics, and I love that it's sung at like the Royal Easter Show and stuff like that, you know, and it's yeah, but I got to, Mum and Dad took me to Dural Country Club in the late 80s, and we saw John Williamson, and I got to meet him, and yeah, and like Dad bought me one of his shirts that had a reinterpretation of, or an alternate version of like the Australian flag, which was a kangaroo in a rectangle. And my mum was like, oh, I don't know about that. I don't know. She was really challenged. Mum's Scottish, and you know, like, hey, you know, everyone's at different levels within their understanding and critical dialogue around who we are culturally. But yeah, that really stuck with me, and I hope we get to meet him again one day. I'd love to hear what he thinks of that interpretation and how he, I don't know. What do you think, John, about me being super femme with your song? But yeah, I mean, my pronouns are he, him, and you know, it's interesting even thinking about when I learnt how to say that and why I'm saying that, and thinking about all of us are on a spectrum of gender, and for each of us, no matter how we identify now in comparison to maybe how we identified before and how we'll identify in the future, is unique to each of us. And I love that we're talking about it, and I love that we're embracing and expanding our language around that. And for me, I'm like, oh, you know, like I'll just use those pronouns because that'll do for now. And because I don't know, actually some of the other language doesn't quite capture it. But I think performing, and I think we're all performing it every day in different ways, some in really deliberate ways, and other ways just through our small actions, and I think that really counts as well. And so it's really exciting to see people embrace, celebrate, expand on their gender experience, especially with young people. As an educator, I get to talk to lots and lots of people of different experiences, ages, abilities, cultural influence, and I'm really both challenged and also nurtured through working and meeting young LGBTQI plus people for the work that we made for this show. At Animal Sunshine and Rainbows, we met with Skillset College, a group of students there, and they're incredible and diverse young people who are talking about their experience in complex ways that are shared dialogues that are far beyond anything I ever experienced at that time. And again, it's all an evolving, moving, growing story. It's culture. Culture is a living thing, and we're all contributing to it, and it's beautiful to see those young people confident and making those decisions, and they're the ones defining their experience and their identity. that's right for them, despite what adversity they might be experiencing, or even maybe informed by that adversity. I don't know, it's kind of like, yeah, it's just great times, I think, that we're living in, and yeah, that's weird, you know, to be making work about it. Again, I kind of like always was making this work for me to unpack and process things, you know, because words don't always say it. And then to be here at this place sharing it and contributing to this greater dialogue is a huge honour. And I think also really sharing this platform with you, Richard, this conversation, because our different generational experiences as well, like I'm reflecting on these young people and you as well, I'm sure you've got, we've shared different conversations and reflections on our different experiences, that there's so much more for us even to talk about from there. We've really only scratched the surface, but I love being with you, and I think it's necessary that we are here together doing this together.
That's true what you've just said. It's one of the great things of doing this show with Leanne is because I'm a quite old person and Leanne's very young, and we have different experiences about, like when I grew up as a gay male, I mean, you only had two choices. They were either gay or straight. And the people in the middle, those bisexual people, they just couldn't make their mind up. So that was the simplicity. That's some of the debates you would have back in the 70s, which was quite, you know, whereas today, the discussion is far more fluid. And it's been really interesting working with Leanne because he comes from a different generation and a different thing. He also comes from Western Sydney, and as a young person, he probably felt incredibly isolated because I was raised in the eastern suburbs of Sydney, where access to gay people in that is far easy to do. So, if I can move along, one of these three works over here, the extraordinary thing about Liam's work is it's very quiet, but it's also very edgy and very disturbing. And these three images over here of the executioner, the crusader, and the terrorists are quite controversial within his career. Some people have said that they're repelled by them because they are images of power and repression, but he has made them look so beautiful. And that's one of the dichotomy in a lot of your work, is it looks beautiful, like bleeding liver up here, with the blood coming out of the nose. When I first saw that, it reminded me of that thing that still happens, called kufta bashing, you know, where people would bash you up because you're queer. So I'm just wondering, how did you come to make these works, and why did you make them in this way, which is really fantastically beautiful?
Yeah, it's a really good link thinking about bleeding glitter and these works, because yes, you're right, that's thinking about the violence, and yeah, physical and mental and, you know, kind of like the slow burn violence that I experienced, and, you know, and how I processed that and how it informs who I am, and, you know, also like built my lens and how I see the world and my experiences, and teaches you how to have fortitude in your life and where that comes from. But then thinking about these works that I made many years later are about my place and the violence that I am part of, whether I'm directly the one dishing that out, you know, through, you know, this is the thing, it's like, it's big things and it's little things. It's the effect that we can have on people is through, you know, even the small sort of actions and And sometimes we're complicit, and other times it's there and it's subliminal and we don't even notice. And you know, this whole thing of unpacking my identity and talking about it intuitively through these works and embodying them and performing it, you know, this me kind of working things out. These works came out of a meditation of, you know, turning and facing the systems of privilege, violence, oppression, you know, the racism, the conquest, the theft that's contributed to my privilege. And I know, it's all problematic, no matter what and how we talk about. I don't know what's right or wrong. I don't know. You know, and it's great having conversations with people, and it's also really confronting because it's like, I think we're in a really interesting time where actually questioning this as part of our identity is actually becoming a critical part of our culture. And one of the moments that kicked it off with me was getting to know the late Adam Cullen, artist who was a vibrant character, and I remember sitting with him one time. He was very kind to me, and he kind of took me in his wing for a short time, and he kind of lifted that veil for me, along with many other people. I think that's also like these cultural dialogues and these critical conversations that we're having. We're also coming out of activists and the people who are enacting resilience through bringing these conversations. You know, people of colour, First Nation people, queer people, all the people who are talking openly about what the darkness and the depth of our history and the things that we should all be talking about. And you know, it's many, many voices that have contributed to this. But I just remember this one chat and Adam saying to me, you know, we're living on a foundation of violence, terrible violence, and everything that we have has been gained through partially some kind of violence perpetuated on somebody else. And so for me, making these works is about sitting with that questioning and not about trying to summarize it or come to a gratifying moment of you know, like a character arc, you know, going from, you know, somebody bad who's like learned a lesson, and gratifying, like, you know, or even trying to summarize it, some kind of an apology in a moment so that we can move on. It's not about moving on, it's about making that questioning and that building of an understanding into who we are, and it being almost another practice that, But when I make these works, I'm often like, I have thought a lot about it, but also, like I said, I'm making these works to help me process it. So now that I've made these works, sometimes I look back and I'm like, oh fuck, you know, like, so what else can you do except for, I guess, maintain that responsibility that I've taken on and hopefully make space for people, for us all to continue questioning what this is, and hopefully, I don't know actually. I don't have any answers. I just have questions. So here I am chatting, and I should be the one putting it out to you. I need you actually. But I hope that's the thing. I hope that we all at least go away and after maybe experiencing some art, talk to our friends, our family, you know. I've sat down with my nieces and nephews and I've planted little seeds, you know. I'm not sitting down going, right, we need to unpack our privilege. Okay, you all know you're white, right? So where does that come from? What does it mean? And, you know, it's about, just starting a dialogue and making space for them to go away and think about it, and then us connect about it later. And then hopefully they listen and hear other people's experiences that then inform them. You think about what a concentrated time of learning for us that the Black Lives Matter movement is, and that it too should not be a moment in history, but part of who we are and part of our So in some small way, I hope that as a queer white man living in Australia, that I can be part of that dialogue.
Thank you. One of the original titles for this exhibition, which got ditched very early on because it was quite controversial, it was called "I'll Never Know What It Is to Be Black, but I'm sure having a terrible time trying to work out what it is to be white." And I think that's partly central to this. And I think following on from these words, one of the things about the White Lady performance that was done in Tarana, you've done it several times before, but they've been in art gallery situations. And this was the first time that Leanne had done it in a general public area. And the question he asked people is, what do they mean, how do they relate to the term white? And talk about that. That's quite a confrontational thing to actually talk to people about. None of these conversations, if you see the movie, none of that conversation has actually been recorded because it's obviously a very intimate exchange between Leanne the artist and the person. So, So, in 2013, there's an abrupt change in your career when you start working with embroidery, like these works behind here, and you start dealing more directly with the community. Why did this happen? How did it?
This notion of community and sharing happened really early, like when I started going out to nightclubs and meeting other gay people, and I made friends with beautiful Mitchell Platt, who's still my friend today, who became my drag mother. She was performing as Victoria's Secret in the late 90s, and she was underage from Wagga Wagga, etching out a drag career on, in the Albury Hotel, which doesn't exist anymore. It's so sad. But her drag mother was Portia Turbo, who is still an amazing drag performer based in Western Sydney today. And Victoria gave me headpieces and corsets and things that were given to her by Portia. And that's the ripples of that. And then me wanting to take that on and expand on that is why I work with community, and also why I work with beads and sequins. Taking apart those headpieces, taking apart those corsets, learning how they were made. I'm unpicking things to find out what is the structure of this thing, and this complex thing. Have you ever tried to make a corset? It's really hard, so hard. I've tried so many times, and they're just these weird rickety things, they're not quite right. But Porsche's were beautiful. So anyway, I'll just get them off Etsy now. So much easier. Yeah. But embroidery, I just started making these because, I started with a hoop and stretching fabric and started playing. And Mum was a maker, and she used to just let me play with materials as well. So it's that too as well. It's everyone who contributes to that practice and your relationship with your materials. But the sequins very much coming from these costumes, and I was thinking why is sequins so gay? Why do we always think about when we think of Mardi Gras, we think of sequins and glitter? And I was like, what's it been like? Where has that come from? Before Portia's time, or thinking about that drag matriarchy, and thinking about people starting the first cultural gatherings of queer people, and that they were done in secret, and in tucked away little nooks in the shadows, and I think that's why they were wearing sequins. They were playing with whatever available light they had, and not only capturing it, but celebrating that little glimmer of hope, and making those moments of potential terror, something beautiful, and moments infused with connections and shared experience. And And that's why I work with them today, and that's why I share them as well. And I also think sequins are for everybody. Glitter is for everybody. And and then these working on hoops as well. When I started making these and putting words that meant something to me, words that guided me or that were questions. And then thinking, oh, well, I kind of always had these on my wall. They're so similar to my clan sigils, from the Russell clan and the McRae clan. So I guess they're kind of like one little sigils, yeah. And I think a huge part of this as well, like working with community, is like something that's taken a lot of support and effort for me to get to that place where I'm now able to facilitate a space of comfort and safety for people. And I have to say that my time at Perram Artist Studios, and through the guidance of Sophia and the PADS team and other artists that I shared that space with as well, it was terrifying to me thinking about getting people in a room and talking or connecting with people that had a different experience to me, but I was desperate to do it. Like I just knew that we were meant to be together, that me and other people who had a totally different lifestyle, experience, story, that we were meant to be in a room together, finding out what we had in common, and then weaving that into something. And Perram Artist Studios was the space that helped me learn that. And like other people, Kiri Morcom, who's run for many years Weave, which is another community group that gets people to do that, exactly that, come into a room and share your cultural stories through materials. And the Adorn Collective, which is the most amazing group of people. I can't even believe like how lucky I am, to have these people in my life. Like, sorry, I'm such a sook. I can't believe it. Oh, Richard's gritting his teeth probably. I gotta pull it together. But really, like it's a revelation that, and scary. I love what you said last night, Sophia, about, we're gathering these people in this room and we didn't know what was going to happen because we're kind of throwing all these people in and seeing, we don't know, maybe they won't have anything in common. But we did, we had so much. And our materials, and the way we use our materials was one of those things. And then not only do you make an artwork in a workshop series, but then you form a relationship. And that I love that those things are then ongoing. And I said this to the people, who contributed to the community work that was made here. I was like, you're kind of locked in to, I'm going to haunt you now. You're never going to get rid of me, because we've made this work now. So I'll see you in a year's time, and in 2 years, and in 5 years' time. Because we have this work that connects us, that we've made together. I'm the guardian of that work. I don't own that work. I just need to look after that and maintain all the people's voices and stories that are in it. And I love that that is an organic process as well. And for some people, it will probably just be a little email and a thanks and a like on Facebook. But other people, I'll see them again, and we've actually formed something through sharing a creative process that has brought out, two different parts of the galaxy together to form a friendship. So it's all in the same place.
So, you're all right. So from 2013 to 2020, Leanne basically worked in embroidery and worked on, there are 4 large community works in the exhibition. The language map of Australia is one of them, the big flag that hangs out there from the very generously made by the Museum of Contemporary Art in Sydney. There's a huge black one on the wall. So that's the big one on the next gallery. Is that, I can't think what it's called.
Oh, Thoughts and Prayers.
Thoughts and Prayers. That was made over how many years? 5 years. So there's a long period. And then in 2020, photography appears again. And that's the work on the end wall above and below. I'm just asking, has politics it's a very political work, it's a very beautiful work. Again, it's one of those images which we talked about it's attractive to look at, but it's unsettling what the content actually is. And again, someone said to me, oh, it's glorifying Captain Cook, isn't it? And I went, huh? How did you get that out of it? But anyway, why did you return to photography with that book?
Just with Ocker Envy, this was like really early work. I was in university and playing with drag, and the lecturer said to me at the time, because I was like bringing these videos and photos of me in drag, and he's like, okay, so you're beautiful, but what are you, bird woman? Like, what's with the feather headpieces and you're in drag, so what? Like, what are you really saying? And, you know, that was like, I was like, oh, okay, but it really kicked me into gear, and along with other lecturers, they were like, you know, you're a contemporary artist, you're talking about contemporary times, where's the political in your work? And, you know, that was way back when I was in university. It's taken time to bring that into my work. And like I don't know, I don't think anyone's voice is any more important than anyone else's. But for me, engaging with these topics is almost like a necessity. I can't not, because I think about it all the time. I think about it all the time. I think, and I think about what people are sharing, and I try and take it on and activate it through who we are. So in talking about these works, talking about how these instances exist in plain sight behind a thin veil, and that they are glamorous, and that is how they've existed. And I guess thinking about Above and Below with Captain Cook in the water, yeah, same thing. I know I'm playing with this figure that is a difficult and challenging figure and conversation topic for many people. But also, there's a lot of us who have existed with that history and haven't had a chance to question it yet. And I think about those moments where the veil is lifted for the first time, and you get to rethink history and what the waves of intensity that is when you realise that what you know is just one version of something. And so thinking about that image in particular, and I guess this is the thing, I want my images to be something that you can get straight away, and hopefully will have layers that you can unpack. But with Above and Below, it's really, you know, it was during the Black Lives Matter movement, and we were in this intense time of rethinking everything, and a lot of us, you know, engaging with these topics, these things for the first time, and a lot of us were moving forward and activating it. For instance, tearing down statues. And I don't know what's right there. I don't know. It's really intense to see it happening, and exciting, and frightening. And I think, yeah, we can tear down those statues. We can, and we should rethink things, but also those statues remain there as a reminder of that history and an opportunity to maybe rethink them. Like art, you know, they're actually pieces of art, and they are open for interpretation and rethinking. So I don't know what the answer is, but, you know, I was thinking about that legacy of Cook and colonialism and everything that's challenging and needs to be questioned. That there's only so much that you're really seeing. It's the tip of the iceberg. And so you know, for me, I'm reminding myself to always think about what's under the water, what's under the surface.
I've got one more question for Liam, and then we might open it up from the audience to ask. In true RuPaul's Drag Race fashion, what would the 42-year-old Liam Benson say to the 10-year-old Liam Benson about the life journey he was going to undertake?
I'm sure I'm not. I'm going to think of them a great slogan and have fortitude in this moment. But it's actually thinking about this memory a lot. And 10-year-old Liam was standing on the side of the road in a kilt, kicking the dirt, thinking, where is this coming from? Why do I feel this way? And I hear all these things that people are saying about me, that should be helping me contextualize it, but it's not. And I don't know, I guess I'd say to him, you know, like try and shake it off and just try and find the joy, try and find the celebration. I think that's one thing, you know, there's a lot of humour, irony, there's political conversation, everything, but one thing in my work that I really want to maintain is this notion of celebration, and that is also came from university. I remember one of my lecturers said, you've got celebration in your work. And so I think that's the thing. Keep coming back to what's authentic for you and celebrate it, no matter what other people are saying. And find other people to share that with. Because you're not alone. No one's alone. There's actually loads of people who will share what you are feeling and have something good to contribute to it. Yeah, so that's what I would say to him. And like, yeah, stay in the little fantasy zone. Yeah, lock them out. Fantasize about riding a horse across a field of flowers, or a unicorn, whatever you like, or a Pegasus, whatever. You know, just find your own space, and you know, yeah, because you know, stay true to you. It sounds really cliche, but it's good advice that was given to me as well.
Any questions? Any answers?
I was curious about, you've actually talked quite a lot about this sort of, I wouldn't say there's a point, but it's more a transition, an evolution in your work, where it went from being obviously a process that you were doing for yourself to an awareness that what you were doing had a wider implication politically and culturally. And that transitional period, is there a point or an emergence of a moment when you realise that what you were doing did have a wider kind of impact beyond, you know, does that come from career success, or you talked a lot about significant people in your life that have been kind of catalysts for these moments of awareness? I don't know if you might speak to that.
I think it's experiencing art. Like at the beginning of my time, when I was first at university, I came to Bathurst to visit my friend who was doing a university course here, and I actually came to Bathurst Regional Gallery, and I remember seeing an amazing contemporary art exhibition in a regional town, and so I think it's art, it's contemporary art. Because when I went to art school, I was doing drawings and I was making things with the materials that I had handed to me, but meeting other people who were rethinking what art could be, and those amazing lecturers, you know, Peter Sharrock, Julie Rapp, David Haynes, like all these incredible mentors, and then like, you know, just like, not slapping us in the face, but like almost like, you know, dousing us in cold water and waking us up to what's happening around us. And that, everything that's happening around us is really significant. And it's the same for all of us. Like, the times we're living in are extraordinary, and we're not passive people in it, we are a part of it. Yeah, so I think that was the biggest thing. And I don't know if it's a good thing or a controversial thing to say, but to be really, really brutally honest, is that artists that have really inspired me the most are First Nation artists. I think that the honesty and the resilience and the authenticity that I see in contemporary First Nation artists is, for me, something that I want to parallel or echo or try and have as a similar voice. I think I love that it's about people and community and family and culture, and for me, rather than appropriating that, which I think is really important, and that's been a big lesson about what does appropriation mean and how do you not do that, but thinking about how you then turn that on yourself and ask those questions of yourself and find out who are your relationships and your family and your community that are important to you, that need to be nurtured. What is your culture, and where is it going? Where is it coming from? And then, yeah, I think really being included in a significant community like Perram Artist Studios, or, you know, that melting pot, like, after university, there's nothing quite like it. Being around other artists and people that are, you know, sharing the environment with you is really significant. So those things, yeah. Like, I'm an educator. I work with artists of different stages, and I'm nurturing them as well. And we talk a lot about people's circle of support. And the one thing that I try and tell people is, like, be kind to everyone at all times and keep maintaining relationships, because especially in the art world, you will come around and see them again. And they will see you again, and you'll all have, like, there's a really cyclical reciprocity within the arts community. It's really special. I'm really privileged and grateful to be part of it.
Any other questions? Oh my God, thousands.
I'm not sure whether I've got a question or not, but I've got a teenage granddaughter who's been going through teenage years, and she often feels very much alone, and there's lots, I've seen the statistics, a very high proportion of teenagers, despite social media these days, feel alone. And most of these teenagers won't have the strong interest in art that you have, and you know, you've been talking about other artists and doing things with other artists. What can we do, what can you do to help reach out to those sort of people, young people?
Thank you. I know it's a hard one, isn't it? It's a hard one because the young people are just living in this world of, like, social media consumption and technology, and like, it's all supposed to be about connection, but like, I think it's really bad for our mental and social health. I think it's really toxic. So I think getting out and about, I think going and doing things, whether it's a bushwalk or going into a gallery or just doing stuff for fun. I think anything, like, culture is whatever is shared between people. So I think finding those things and like, for teenagers, it's about pushing them out the door. Like, I've only got nieces and nephews, but like, I remember going and visiting my nephews, and they live in the country, right? My sister moved there so that they could enjoy the amazing life that we had living in a rural part of Sydney. And they're just on their devices all the time, and then they're just like these moody teenagers. So like, when I'm visiting and there's wood to be chopped, it's like, you're coming out right now, and so just pushing them. You know, it's really hard, like, trying to get a teenager to just like buck up and like get involved. But then when they're there, it's like something comes out, you know, and at least you can say that that's something to remember. And I think that whole thing of celebrating it and just always, you know, positively reaffirming like what you have and what you've done together, even if it's tiny, and just kind of building on that, like reminding them that they're really important and significant, and that, without, I guess, embarrassing them anything further. Yeah, I don't know, that's my thoughts, that's my experience, yeah.
I think, for me personally, one of the things is people around you that support you. I remember when I was at primary school, and I obviously was quite different from anyone else in the school. My teacher took me to the Clovelly Puppet Theatre, took me out of that, and I was placed in another environment with, there were many older people who were creative, and it actually changed my life in many ways. I think without that, I would have been floundering. Leah.
Yes, thank you, Liam and Richard, for such a beautiful exhibition. Liam, I'd just like to ask a little bit more about the White Lady performance. Thanks. In particular, as Richard mentioned, that you've gone from previous performances were in an art gallery environment, and this was the first time you're in the general public arena and in a regional context. So I know the exchange between you and the viewer or participant, the general public, is an intimate and private conversation in some ways, even though you ask them to contribute to the artwork of the dress. What was the experience for you taking it out of the gallery and probably more art-informed audience and participants to a regional audience, particularly in a pub, and also the dress itself? Is it the same dress that's continuously used? Is there a new dress per performance? And how will that also travel in terms of when it goes to Broken Hill. I'm just interested in that part of the exhibition.
I will eventually wrote all of that, and I was like really ambitious. I thought I was totally going to have it all done. I thought I was going to make a new dress, and I was going to transport everything that was written on that dress onto a new dress and embroider it. But that didn't happen because I was sewing these right up until 2 hours before finishing install the other day. But that's okay, that's great, because that means it is actually an ongoing work, and it's like a conversation that I think just needs to exist over a long amount of time. Like, it shouldn't have a start and finish so much. And I started it because I was thinking about like the big chats that we have in life, and I'm like, when was the first time I talked about being white and what that meant? And I don't know, I think that happened in contemporary art, but I don't think it's ever really happened between me and my family members or other people, like it's happened through art. And again, it's like artists like Richard Bell, who, and Vernon Arcade, who are holding mirrors up to us and talking about us together. And so that's what's really informing it. And again, I'm not sure. I think maybe sometimes I'm overstepping my boundary, but also, I think I'm unpacking my culture, which I think is a necessary part of my culture. I just love that it's full of tongue-in-cheek, serious stuff, hard realities, also love and beauty, and all age groups as well. Like, there's a young person that I spoke with, and she was with her mum, and I asked the question, what do you think of white people? Let's kind of open it up and have a chat about it, or what do you think of white privilege, or whatever. Just start the conversation. And with this little girl, she was like, and then she grabbed a pen, and then she drew this little castle down the bottom, which I thought, was so great that somebody so young was able to interpret it, this symbol that represented so much. And it's great. It's great. And people of all different cultural backgrounds, we all should be part of this, and I love that they're there in that work. So eventually, what I'd really like to do is use the organza that I love so much and create a new dress. And because there are things in the pleats of the fabric that are really good. There's some good shit in there, like seriously. It's like great. It's this great, joint authorship of this great dialogue that's happening about time. And I want to do it all by myself as well. I kind of feel like I shouldn't really get any support in that one. I have to meditate on it and go through it and give my time to each of those contributions. And place them on a dress so that they can all be seen. Yeah, but they're great. There's some good ones. Feel free, I'm telling you guys, I don't know, we're not usually supposed to touch the art, but if you want to have a little look through, look under the sleeve and stuff like that, there's some little gems in there, and I'd love to hear about what resonates with them from what's been written on the dress as well. Yeah, I look forward to that greater chat of being in a room with people and talking about what's in the art. Yeah.
I think we might stop there. First of all, I want to thank you, Leanne, for sharing so much about you with us today. It's been a real great pleasure working with you. It's been an experience, but it's been fantastic. Leanne is, this is an ad for another show. I'm currently working on a big queer show for World Pride with the National Arts School, which Leanne is in, and we're incorporating the Ned Kelly works. If you think they're big, I'm thinking of blowing them up to about 1.5 metres square, which will look extraordinary on the wall. So that'll be in February. It's called Braving Time at the National Arts School. Do come along, and Leanne will be in that. Thank you so much for coming today. Thank you, Sarah Gurwick. Thank everyone, and